going to make you lucky if you watch the whole entire show. But if you leave 7 years of bad luck.
There are so many people that are disconnected from their internal guidance. My mission is to change that.
I don't just talk stuff and repeat stuff. I'm living this stuff.
I'm your tarot master and bad vibe blaster.
And you can thank me for covering your Astro.
Welcome to Leading Out Loud, also known as LOL, a spiritual talk show that takes a look at the shift show we call life from a spiritual perspective. On the roundtable tonight are Motley mystics, speaking on behalf of the angels in heaven, angel communicator Devon Duerr.
Hey,
talking to the dead, psychic medium Scott Cruz. Bringing in the power of the occult, tarot master Chris Reck. And the voice of astrology, yours truly, psychic astrologer, Christopher Witecki. Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you here. This podcast is currently streaming on our LOL Leading Out Loud YouTube channel. And to each of you, also our social media profiles. Wherever you're watching, be sure to hit the bell button and make sure you're notified the next time we go live. And please, please, please like this video so we can overthrow the overlords of YouTube's algorithm. And for those who are in the live chats, hey, say hello to us. Tell us where you are in the world and where you're watching us. And don't be too surprised if one of us on our team shouts out to you during the show. Team, we've been talking backstage, first of all, that the energies have been absolutely crazy. We totally get that. And I want everyone to know we have a special new segment this week called our Spiritual Surf Report. We're all going to weigh in on what's happening in the world's energy. That's coming up here in Act 2 or Act 3. But first, it's time to get to the headlines this week of what's gone on. Last week was a crazy week. We have a lot of headlines to talk about from our spiritual crew, TikTok, Mark Zuckerberg, and Alec Baldwin. But first, our top headline: NBC has signed a bill that could ban TikTok after the 2024 election. And I believe, and this is our awesome screen share here, if we can go to the article, maybe not. We'll see here. But ultimately what happened was last week we had, there was a vote in Congress, team, that was actually buried in a bill around finances and passing finances that technically will ban TikTok from the United States. It has a certain amount of days in order to sell itself, or otherwise it will be banned. And most people are saying this is going to be signed by President Joe Biden, but people are also saying that it's actually not going to take effect until after 2024. So energetically, it's sort of maybe just something for Congress to look good and maybe not something that actually happened. Now we do have, I don't know if we can roll the video, but we have the leader of TikTok giving his response to the situation. We think.
Platform. Make no mistake, this is a ban. A ban on TikTok and a ban on you and your voice. Politicians may say otherwise, but don't get confused. Many who sponsored the bill admit a TikTok ban is the ultimate goal. It's obviously a disappointing moment, but it does not need to be a defining one. It's actually ironic because the freedom of expression on TikTok reflects the same American values that make the United States a beacon of freedom. TikTok gives everyday Americans a powerful way to be seen and heard, and that's why so many people have made TikTok part of their daily lives. Rest assured, we aren't going anywhere. We are confident and we will keep fighting for your rights in the courts.
Brilliant. So, actually, I don't have his birth chart, but I am super curious on what's really happening with this. And I want to go around the round table and talk about it here. First, let's go to Tarot Master Chris Reck. Regarding this whole TikTok thing, what do the cards reveal Congress's motivation really is? Is this really about TikTok?
I think this is about young people shaping young minds. Knight of Wands here. And also, but I don't think TikTok is going anywhere. Strength card, I think TikTok has staying power. And Seven of Cups, there's probably like multiple different, I think there's a lot going on here, like a lot of reasons why they want to ban it. Probably reach having to do with the Knight of Wands and the Seven of Cups together. And I'm getting something else on the Seven of Cups as well. I'm not quite sure, but I think there's a lot going on with why they want to ban it. It's more than one reason.
Mm-hmm. Devon, do the angels feel that the U.S. data is really being, taken advantage of here, or is they just U.S. Congress just socializing the idea of censorship?
Socializing the idea of censorship. They said there's so much collaboration going on behind the scenes. There are opportunities for people to make money off of this. So many new platforms that are waiting for TikTok to go away so they can come out. So the main message from the angels here is to check in with your intuition before joining any new social media platforms. Of course, you want to do that as well with TikTok, with anything you're on, but look to see, where does the app profit from you giving its energy? What opportunities are they taking from you? And just really make sure that before you sign on to something new or you immediately dismiss some older app, you understand how they're getting their information and what are they gaining from this besides the normal thing that we know. There's definitely stuff going on behind the scenes that's going to create profits for other people if TikTok is kept subdued for a while. So keep checking in with that intuition.
So you think the angels are saying that there's like an inside deal if someone wants to gobble up TikTok?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, just there's collaborations they're showing to create this into something better that will be censoring the young. So they were validating what Chris Reck just said about keeping young voices down. I mean, anybody who's been a TikTok creator knows how free they were to create originally. And yes, there's negatives and positives to that, but the angels take that bigger perspective. Where are your rights being taken away, and where are you giving too much energy to something that's being used for not the greatest purpose?
Okay, Scott Cruz, Psychic Medium. Do you sense that there are like Facebook or other social media companies that are actually kind of lobbying for this in the background, that there might be a grab there to squash out the competition?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I kind of feel like it's very theater to me, like media theater. I don't think really TikTok is going to be going anywhere for a while. I think it's also very convenient around election time too. So I really think it really has to do about censorship. You know, I've been saying this for a while. I think China and America have been in bed for quite a long time. They're just trying to disguise that. So I think that they're on board with this controversy. And the more controversy, the more people are sitting there engaged. So no, I feel like there will be some changes. I think maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, there'll be a lot of changes within TikTok, like a rebranding, more like, oh, we found this new algorithm to keep you safe. So I think it's actually a ploy to get people to, focus on the security. At the same time, they create a problem to create a solution. So they say, we're now keeping you safe. So then we can actually rely on it when we're still giving our information and all that stuff away. So I think this is theater, to be honest with you. And I think that all the social media platforms are pretty much on board in a sense, even though they look to be competitive. But I think it's more about a social design and less about the platforms themselves. When I say social design, how we interact with them, how we actually give our privacy away, all that whole thing about, censorship, all that. It's really about a social design for me of all this theater that's going on. So yeah, I think that
when you say social design, you mean like in China, how they're training all their citizens to be amazing, and we're having like people farting on balloons? I mean, like,
well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that way to get people to wake up to about what's really happening with their security and privacy, and to have a little more discernment. So, I mean, spiritually, that's what it's calling for everyone to have more discernment to see through the veil and so forth. So, but it is all about control. It is all about that censorship, what we say, what we don't say. So they're just coming. I always say the government creates problems that create a solution. So we say, well, they're the angels. They're the gods for us, right? So I think it's just another one of those situations. And TikTok has been known for that privacy issue, when really all the other apps are doing the same thing too. They're stealing your data too.
Speaking of other apps, the X app, Elon Musk is under some controversy with Australia, right? Because he was refusing to take down a video that was, hard for a lot of people to watch. But I did a little research on that and went behind the scenes. And the person who was in the video, I believe it was a priest, right? That was the victim. He even himself wasn't calling for this to be taken down. And so it's going to be interesting to see the way that this loops into other things that cause censorship. Where does the line get drawn? And we know with a lot of these things, it's a slippery slope.
Psychically, it seems like a 2 bird for 1 stone kind of thing. I mean, this was tucked in a $95 billion national security package, and all we're talking about is a TikTok ban.
Right.
We just borrowed another 95 billion from Visa.
Good point. Yeah.
Right. So I think there's something interesting there. I mean, I look at TikTok. TikTok has an interesting history. It actually is a 3-degree Aquarius. So in astrology, so here we go.
I don't do that stuff.
Back up, y'all. No, but the point there is, and that's based on when it was released in basically released in Thailand. That's where I got the chart. So it was released in Thailand on January 23rd, 2018, after they had acquired Musical.ly to become this super social media. And the thing about Pluto, Sun at 3 degrees, it's a 3-degree Aquarius. Pluto is at 2 degrees Aquarius right now. So I predict, yes, TikTok will be completely transformed because Pluto is going to conjoin over its sun. That alone. I'm not sure what the rising is, but it has 20 degrees in Jupiter and Scorpio, which means basically TikTok has a lot of boundary issues. So personally, I feel like this is psychically, it feels like a number of things. Like for one, they were able to hide that spending. For two, psychically, I think we're seeing if they can get away with censoring social media, because if that happens, what's next? X? Once you set the precedent.
But we've been seeing this trend with security with Facebook back in the day. I mean, it's been a consistency with all these social media platforms. TikTok is not the new one. So it's been going for almost every platform. I think it's like, let's focus on TikTok so we can actually, push Meta further. So Meta is the kind of the main game here. And so to me, it's just all theater. It's been going for a while, but I think at the same time, we'll start seeing those changes in that sense too, where, we're going to crave, they want us to crave for that censorship and to say, don't talk about certain things. They're going to want us to crave that censorship too, in a way. That's what I mean by social design, and so you don't want to be bullied. Let's block that, censor that too. Let's bully the censor bullyship, and and it comes down to freedom of speech too, and blocking all those things as well. And so, I mean, to me, it's like a psyop where they're kind of engineering us intellectually to buying into that type of deprivation of freedom of speech.
I wouldn't be surprised if TikTok came in and has kicked the asses of Facebook and TikTok. And X to the curb, even Instagram, everyone flocked to TikTok. Even I have a problem, but the point is, but what I'm curious about, just in the final question, we'll drop this topic is, do you feel like our data has been watched by a foreign entity? Do you feel like our data is really at risk? Because I heard we had this, they were using data servers in our own country, and then that had been eliminated as an option, from what I understand.
Yeah,
so I think so.
They've had our data forever. So
they've been farming it for a long time. Yeah. I mean, this is to me, this is like going like 15 years back. They started doing this. I don't think there's anything new.
All social media companies have.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And this, again, I just want to reiterate, this is what your psychic awareness, not your opinion, right?
Psychic awareness. My spidey sense is observing this. Yes, that's how I feel. That's what I really feel that.
I psychically feel that there's been profiles built on all of us everywhere anyways, and probably even data sharing in that regard. So, if anything, throw in some crazy data to throw off the algorithms, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this has been going on for much longer than we have had technology. I mean, I'm dating myself here, but remember Publish Clearinghouse?
Yeah,
so I was going to say that. Yeah.
I mean, they were collecting data on us way before we were even aware that people were collecting data on us. And, the angels are saying, like, this is just part of the progressive. And truly, the data is all out in the collective anyways. So that's the part where we want to protect our energy. How much are we giving energy to something that we are feeling weird about where they're going to take this and reuse it? So we still don't want to put energy into something that feels off.
The truth is like the angels, the ascended masters, they all see us naked. We don't have any privacy.
True.
You go up to heaven and you can look in on any file of any time. You ain't getting away with anything, people. So just go ahead and streak.
Your data is out there. I mean, I already have someone tried to like file taxes under my name. That wasn't so there's that. So people already have that. It's on the dark web, whatever you want to call that. So I don't think this security thing that they're talking about with these social media companies is the real issue. It's again social engineering for me, for culture.
Controlling. Yeah, watch out. Scott is psychic. He's going to remote view and show up on that person's door. Funny. All right. Well, that's a good topic. I feel like TikTok, something suspicious there. We'll keep tuning into this particular thing. From what I can see from the article, it may be years. If TikTok sues, and they have a lot of grounds to sue based on our own laws of freedom of speech and publishing and technology and everything like, we can keep this in the courts for at least 2 or 3 more presidents, frankly, most likely. But the government going after a platform is a little sketchy, in my opinion. And that leads us to an advertisement. By the way, Leading Out Loud is a program where we will be sponsoring this and going to commercial. We do have to somehow recoup our costs for this. And we want to tell you that Leading Out Loud is sponsored by SeriousJoy.com, Minnow Pond Tarot, Scott Cruz, and Devon Duerr. But if you have a spiritual product or service you'd like to advertise on LOL, just email us at info@leadingoutloud.com. info@leadingoutloud.com. All right, we'll be right back. And we're back. I didn't know if we'd be able to coordinate the black screen there, so I just went with it. I just went with the joke. All right, here we go. We're rocking and rolling. This is a live show. Can you tell?
You know,
our second story is brought to us by the lovely Scott Cruz. Scott, what say you?
Well, before I get into it, I just wanted to respond to a question here. Someone said, how has the TikTok journey affected the younger generations? And, I think there's a good and bad to everything. So I really want to respond to that comment. That was a great question. And I think the younger generations are being exposed to a lot more than they have been before, but that could also be very much empowering too. So it really depends on how the younger generations are being parented and their support and how they're being mentored, because they can utilize all this information for a very positive reason. So it really depends on the parenting for me. And their access to it, because it could be very positive too. There's a lot of great resources on there. So a lot of people say it's affecting younger generations, but we have to look at the parenting on that when it comes to the social media platforms and how it's affecting the younger generations. A lot of younger generations are becoming very wise and very smart and very kind of, I would say, educated in a lot of areas they wouldn't have been before. So it could be a great thing if you're parenting and they have the great mentorship available for them to utilize that information. Otherwise, it can be a big travesty when these kids become addicted to those things because of lack of parenting. So it's important that we show our kids a proper mentorship and parenting so they can utilize these resources in a positive way, so they're not actually being a detriment to society or to themselves because of these things. Speaking of detriments, have you all seen the Alec Baldwin clip of him kind of brushing off a person in the coffee shop?
That was hilarious.
Let's see the video. Let's watch the video.
Let's take a look.
Alec, can you please say Free Palestine one time? Why did you kill that lady? You killed that lady and got no jail time? No jail time, Alec? No jail time, Alec. You're putting innocent people in jail, Alec Baldwin. Free Palestine, Alec, just one time, and I'll leave you alone. I'll leave you alone, I swear. Just say Free Palestine one time. One time. One time. One time, Alec. You know he's a criminal. You know he's a criminal. Come on, Alec, just say Free Palestine one time. One time, just one time, please, and I'll leave you alone. Free Palestine. Israel, Zionism. Please say it. One time.
It was a little delayed here. I hate to laugh at violence, but
I mean,
if you see it, it's very cartoon, man.
I mean, again, she was really pushing him. And can we get this graphic to the left? Thank you very much. It's blowing my face here. Just keeping the pump there, Devon. Let's cover you up now. Behind that freaking text. So
he's about ready to punch the director the same way,
right? I have to say, like he did have a lot of restraint, but and she was kind of pushing a lot of that issue, and I like the kind of when he pushes the camera out. It seemed like they did it in slow motion for effect because it was like a simple swap. It looked like in slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you guys think? What was going on in his head, and what do you think he really wanted to say intuitively, especially regarding the issues with the manslaughter charges and the trials? What do you guys feel like has been going on in his head? What did the cards say, Chris?
Yeah, I think he wants. I think he has a lot on his mind. Ace of Swords says that he has a lot on his mind. He's thinking about a lot, and also cuts both ways. So he's definitely got like a short fuse type of energy here. I do think he was trying to walk away. I think he just wanted to walk away from this situation. I actually think that he might be more on her side than she thought, which is kind of interesting to think about because with this judgment card, it's like he hears the call, right? So it's like he might actually be on her side, but she definitely wasn't going about it the right way either. But you know, I see him as a short fuse type of person in eclipse energy. When did this happen? Right? Did it happen? Does anyone know when did it happen during the eclipse?
I think
Or
it was
one of the eclipses?
I thought it was
weeks ago?
last week, wasn't it?
Was it last week, a couple weeks ago, something like that?
Maybe it was right after the
My takeaway was the full moon in Scorpio.
Well, yeah,
Which was
right.
last week. I kind of feel that made us all violent.
Yeah. I mean, look,
We'll talk about that later, but
I don't agree with anyone pushing, say this, say that, say this, you know, and of course with his celebrity, he can't really do that, you know, so she kind of boxed him in a corner, even though I'm not a fan, and we'll get into the trial too, but what did the angels say, Devon?
Well, you know, the angels don't take judgment. They don't judge anybody. They love everybody. They always want to support people with their heart's purpose. But they were talking about the combining of a water and air energy here. And what they're showing me is they wanted us to take their perspective about how this is getting people to listen to their intuition with these types of staged things. So it doesn't really matter what side you're on. They're asking you to ask yourself the question. If you didn't know who Alec Baldwin was, if you didn't know what the topic was that this person's asking about, this younger person, how would you feel about the way that we are treating our elders, about going up to strangers? This is their concern here, is about the way that we're allowing certain topics to allow our emotions to overcome them in a way that's taking away from the true message there. So that's really what they're wanting you to ask is if you didn't know who these people were, what would your reaction be to this? If this was your like friendly old neighbor down the road and the new kid that just moved in. So they're not judging. They're just saying they want you to look at these things before you're having a reaction and you're commenting on these posts.
I agree. And I didn't want to dovetail off that too, because I think that people put, you know, celebrities on a pedestal in a sense, but at the same time, they're kind of still putting on the pedestal when they react differently that way to them. But I also think a lot of us, you know, are trying to hold them responsible and accountable too. But like you said, going about it the wrong way is what brings on the toxicity, because we're not supposed to behave that way. So I love that point on that 100%.
Yeah. Thank you.
Chris Witecki.
We have a term for this in astrology. We call this an Aries. This is what an Aries does. When you piss them off. And, you know, it's interesting because I actually think he sort of represents, I think a lot of people are feeling this tension of that question. She kept probing. She was like pushing on this particular question. I'm not even going to bring it up right now because I don't want us to be flagged, but there is tension going on in the Middle East. And it's kind of like indicative of that tension happening in the world. And it could, you know, be a sign of what could snap, but he's a 13-degree Aries. So he's very unstable anyways. I've ever heard the you know, his voice message he left for his daughter that's still around the internet. He has a Taurus rising and Uranus and Jupiter are conjoining in his first house. So that pretty much is lighting a fuse. And he has a moon in Libra. He was born just before a full moon in Libra. So he's really easily set off, I think. So from what I understand, this is classic Baldwin. From what I understand, but what I feel is what's interesting about this is I think it brings up social commentary in the sense that that energetically the world is in like kind of a pressure point over these topics, and in the same sense we all have social media sort of pressing on us and pressing on us and pressing on us. So it was an interesting little moment. It's kind of like where we all are in some regards.
Right. I think he also could be saving face too, because the upcoming trial. I mean, I'm going to be very reserved. You know, I'm not going to say anything. Eyes are on me. And you know, speaking of that trial, you know, what do you guys think about that? The whole manslaughter situation, because you know, I mean, I know a while back, a lot of people were speculating about whether or not it was, you know, his fault, not his fault, and so forth. So what do you guys also feel in conjunction to that? In the upcoming trial, he wants he wants it to be dismissed. Of course, case be dismissed, but we'll see about that. We'll get into that, my read on that in a minute. But what do you guys feel, you know, psychically, intuitively, as far as you know, his position with the whole case and the manslaughter case that he has? Devon, what do you feel? And what are the angels giving you?
Well, they're showing me there was a lot of there was a lack of cooperation and compromise going on in the set anyways. So a lot of things were done in haste. They are giving me the indication that nothing was really intentional, but also intentional in the way that things were being overlooked. This was a result of carelessness and hasty action. And there were high emotions on the set. So any energy that we're picking up on with it being intentional is because there was intentional anger, there was intentional arguments. In fact, they're saying there was supposed to be some kind of delay and people were not okay with the delay and other people wanted the delay with the shooting process. And this is part of not the actual shooting, but like going through with the filming of it. And they just want us to remember that, a lot of this emotion and all that was causing these things to happen in the way that it came to the ultimate outcome. So, they just want us to remind us to not give our power away, not to assume other people are watching our back. And that's ultimately the lesson, is the angels want us to look at things like this. Don't assume somebody checked those things for you. Don't assume it's safe because all this energy is going on and you just want to get it over with. So there was a lot of high emotions there. And so it was kind of one of those domino effect things, and very sad indeed.
We have someone in the chat, I think her name is Barbara. She says, I think he was set up to fail and take the fall. That's interesting. I wonder who. Who would that be, Scott? Who would that be?
Well,
what do you psychically pick up on this whole thing? Because it's this interesting little quote accident.
Well, I kind of like get Helena's energy. Every time I look at this, I kind of hear her in my mind, kind of saying there was somebody else. There was somebody else. There was another person, and I feel like the movie was an excuse for her murder. So I think that she actually, there was a lot more reasons for her to be dead in a sense, outside of the film. And so financially, someone very close to her. So she keeps showing this hidden entity that actually was connected with Baldwin. So Baldwin knows, he just can't say. That actually created this. And so the movie was an excuse for her murder. So yeah, there was somebody else. It wasn't the prop girl. She was a fall person. And so she understood to take the fall because I believe that she kind of been pressured to. So that's why I think she got her, her punishment, moved on. Everyone kind of forgot about it. But I think that there is another entity involved in this. And that, I mean, she's definitely shown that to me for sure. And I feel like she was better off dead outside of this film too. So there's a lot of financial investments, other ties, legal ties. I'm gonna just keep it there. Right. And so, yeah. And so she, she was definitely blindsided, but I am hearing and feeling that Baldwin knew of this and knows this other entity.
Happen. He lied. I mean, he said, no, I didn't pull the trigger. They're like, we have you on camera.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And what's funny, because he did say in an interview one time, he did say that, there's someone responsible, but it's not me. And I just can't say. I'm like, that's really telling. It kind of confirms what I was feeling, Yeah. So it's
bad actor, bad liar.
Yeah, it's a web, and I feel like this entity is protected because she's directed me to where it's connected to, but for defamation cases, I don't want to mention and poke around. But someone very close to her would have liked her dead for financial reasons, and for other oppositions.
Well, I've always psychically. So first of all, clearly what we saw there in that Starbucks or whatever shows the character that could pull a trigger. He basically, if you could jack slap someone on an iPhone, then you have that in you. But I'll just say this: astrologically, looking at his chart, they say he was born at 7 a.m. I'm a little suspicious at the time, but he does have Chiron at 21 degrees Aquarius and Mars in Aquarius. And the important part about that is he's got some major Aquarius karma. And in this chart that I see, it's in the house of career. In other words, he's got bad career karma, which wouldn't have been activated until Pluto entered Aquarius officially, which was just in this year in this Aquarius season. So, my heart goes out to everyone to succeed and learn the easiest way. But I think no matter what, Alec is up for some trouble in his career with Pluto heading for the 10th.
Now, with that though, career-wise, what do you feel intuitively will be the result of the next trial? Do you think he'll get off? Do you think that he'll be slap on a wrist, or will it just be a career kind of suicide type of thing and he'll just get off legally? Who wants to take that one?
I think that this is smoke and mirrors. Traditionally, we have 2 wands cards here and the magician. Traditionally, wands, not these wands, but traditionally wands were made with Hollywood. So, there you go. And, I would say that I think that there's I think he's going to get out of this personally, especially with that magician right there. And I also think that there's, we'll never know the truth of this whole situation, really. And there's
Mhm.
definitely something else going on, trickster energy.
Mhm.
And yeah, definitely. And especially when I saw that Ace of Wands, I was like, big wand right here.
That's what she said.
There you go. That's like your fifth one
You make
tonight.
it too easy for me on that one.
I set you up for that.
Ultimately, just remember, you got to watch your own back. I mean, that's what the angels are saying. We don't want to give our power away. We don't want to assume other people are taking care of us. We don't want to assume other people's motives are in alignment with ours. And they kept showing the way the energy on the set was pretty disruptive. So a lot could have happened. And they're definitely affirming we probably won't ever know the truth. The real truth won't completely come to the surface. So learn what you can from it.
Indeed. We'll keep an eye on it. Psychically, I vote he gets away with it. And I have a feeling her husband was in on it. That's all I feel.
That's the close relationship I was talking about.
Oh, that's what I feel. Just putting out there. All right. Our third story tonight, Mark Zuckerberg from Chris Reck.
Yeah, so Mark Zuckerberg, also known as Dollar Store Bill Gates, he has adopted a new look. And, I have a lot of questions for you guys about this new look from Mark Zuckerberg. I think there's something, I don't know what he's trying to do, if this is a crazy midlife crisis or if he's trying to reinvent himself. I don't know if he's he looks like a cheap pimp in that,
Look at that looker.
all the way to the right. So I'm like, is he trying to launch the next Tinder? Is he trying to launch something worse?
The next
What's going on
H&M.
here? Yeah, it's like he looks like he's about to try out for a professional baseball team, right in the middle. I'm giving my analysis. I'm giving my analysis here of Mark Zuckerberg. So, Chris, I want to go to Chris first. I wanted to ask, what is he doing what he thinks he's doing the right way, right? Because it looks to me like he's trying to reinvent himself, but it's like, is he doing this the right way, or is he just a robot in a suit trying to fit in, right?
All the above. I try to run Mark Zuckerberg's birth chart, but unfortunately we don't know what lab he was born in. Just kidding.
Right.
So we're trying to nail that down.
Test 2, 3.
He is a weird cat. There's no question about it. And we're not quite sure, we do have a birth time on for him. Here's the deal. Uranus is in Taurus right now. He's a 24-degree Taurus. Uranus is heading for him. Mark, I already had this happen to me. It's real tough. Okay. Like, compiled with the fact that he's turned 40, and 40 is step 40. So once you hit 40, you have to take it up a notch. And it's my opinion that midlife crisis is actually 44 when Uranus opposes Uranus. So yes, I think he is actually going through a Jupiter-Uranus transit. Jupiter is making him feel unusually confident. So this is sort of like when a nerd drinks alcohol and can ask the girl out. I think he's just feeling very empowered right now and very savvy and suave. But he is doing a lot of kind of Dr. Evil thing. He's building like an evil layer under Hawaii, right? Like, he's doing some interesting stuff. He's got Chiron and Gemini at 2 degrees. So I'm just going to put out a little prediction that he'll have some sort of communication faux pas happen right after his birthday at the end of May. That's my prediction. What do the angels say about that, Devon? Do they affirm or deny?
Yeah, well, they're saying, he's very human in this way, to the extent that most of us are. We go diving into our DNA. You could get down all kinds of rabbit holes there. But they are saying that, this is a very human reaction he's going through. And it's a way of distancing himself from the average person. So he did go through a lot of emotional pain, despite what everybody sees from the looking glass here. And he's now beginning to view himself differently. They're talking a lot about his daughters. He has 3 daughters, and he's starting to visualize the way that they view him now that they're starting to get a little older. He's like, how do I want them to look at me? But there's also someone new in his life that's also influencing him. And he's starting to feel like, you know what, I can shine brighter. And so he's definitely setting himself up for a rebranding, as you said. So they were affirming everything. I also heard the Uranus opposition thing, Christopher, as soon as I saw this energy. It's like he's building towards that, and he's making these subtle changes, and we're picking up on it because he's in the limelight here. What are you getting, Scott?
Yeah, I like you said, he's human like the rest of us, right? He's going through his typical highs and lows emotionally, the needs and wants and facades. So I think he's just being human. And I also think that right now he's focusing on his persona more so too, because of that and his appearance. And I mean, that's probably why all the 99-cent stores are closing. He probably bought them out, and that's where his wardrobe's coming from and his hair supply. So, so I think that,
poor Mark.
I think that we are seeing a human version of him. I also feel there's a little bit of that is engineered that way for us to see that version of him too, because he's taking the downfall a lot. So it's a mixture for me. I think you'll start seeing more of that, him kind of immersing that personality in meta for some reason too, and more in the VR space. Like he might be like, oh, Zuckerberg's cool now. And so half of it feels engineered, half of it feels very authentic because he is person going through that kind of midlife crisis. And I don't know if 40 is midlife crisis in a sense, but he's in that type of modality. So I think that he'll start becoming more of that personality so people can relate to him more. I really think it has to do with being relatable as well as the fact of him just being a human being getting 40, so
well, he's trying to be a human being. He's trying. he's
he is
acting
very
as a
interesting.
human being. Yeah,
I can't quite tell it's him or the avatar, which I can't tell them apart usually.
Right. Yeah, which is real.
Yeah. So what do the cards say, Chris? I mean,
yeah, I think Devon said something about his children. So I totally think that with the Page of Swords, that he is trying to maybe do this for his children. I also think that he could be becoming, tapping into his inner child. I don't know if reptile aliens have an inner child or not. I'm assuming that they do, but I think he's tapping into that energy. And I don't know, maybe he is trying to start like an adult friend finder or something like that. Act surprised when he comes out with a dating website. And yeah, I think there's more than meets the eye with Mark too. He's got the moon here. I think there's like more to his journey even after Meta. So I think there's more. I was going to ask Scott too about that. Like, Scott, what do you think is next for Zucks? Even beyond.
That's it. Because when you said dating, that's why I jokingly said Christian Mingle before, because it looked like he was trying to pose that way. So I just seem really immersing into meta VR space, and kind of really being a director on there, a personality on there. So I think that he's trying to get people on board more so, especially with the whole TikTok fiasco. Look, I'm cool. Look, I'm relatable. Like, I'm actually doing the same things you want to do. I'm very charming now. And so now I'm in shape now. So finding all these roles he can play to lure people into the meta space, because I feel like he's just taking that break now before launching. I think VR is going to be, it's taking its very sluggish momentum, but I feel like eventually the VR thing will be a lot bigger than what it is, and I think he's going to have a hand in that, doing that. So that's so funny how it's been so sluggish, but it will be a huge craze, probably in the next 5 years. And I think,
well, I would say Pluto and Aquarius, Chris, what do you think? Pluto and Aquarius VR taking off, or is it going to rot our eyeballs out? Is that really what's going to happen?
Totally. I think Zuckerberg, I think all Tauruses are going to build the new era, and I think Zuckerberg's got his thumb on the pulse, and I think he's brilliantly shifted into the next big thing since Facebook. I think he's over Facebook, but I think you're going to see Zuckerberg. He's just going to be one of those millionaires who just keep seeing reinvent themselves. Yeah, is what I feel. All right, we got lots to talk about, folks. We're going to take a quick little break here. When we come back, we have a segment called History's Mysteries, and we're going to do a spiritual surf report where we all look at the energy and the week ahead. Keep streaming. And we're back.
We're back.
That was a break.
There's our break. And welcome to History's Mysteries. This is a new segment we are introducing where we will use our superpowers to look back on some of history's biggest mysteries. Today's topic is the Titanic. This topic was inspired by the recent announcement by Australian billionaire Clive Palmer and his Blue Star Line to move forward with building the Titanic 2, which will be a replica of the original ship with modern improvements. However, this is the third attempt to get this ship on the high seas. It has some interesting things dating back to it where there's going to be replicas from this ship, things you've seen in the movies. They're going to encourage you to dress that way if you want to. So you really can, immerse yourself in the feeling of that era if you want to. But I really would like to ask the audience a question here, whether you're watching this live now here in the super chat or you want to comment later under the video. If you got a free ticket to go on the maiden voyage of Titanic 2, would you take it? Would you go? I really, really want to hear from all of you as we go into using our superpowers to talk about this. Really, I want to know. And then I also want to go into the history of the Titanic 1 as well. But first, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about this replica that we're now on the third attempt to build the Titanic 2?
I'll take a ticket if they sink it on purpose, because I want the full experience. So I would take
Would you pull a card before you got on that ship, buddy?
No. If I knew that they were going to sink it, then I would know.
It's like I even know tarot jokes here, but he's
Yeah.
like he's getting the tower, he's getting the devil. He's like, I'm
everything.
going.
I'm sure. Actually, 6 of Cups. Hey, that's scary too. Nostalgia, repeat. I wouldn't go.
Okay, that's a no.
Wow, that's funny. I'll jump in here. I feel like if you're trying for the third time, you really need to take a hint from the universe. It's already doomed and cursed. So, but I'm a bull. I won't even go in a rowboat. So my answer is no.
Yeah, I went on a 10-day cruise, got food poisoning, and I'm done with the whole ship thing. So that'd be a no for me.
10-day Scott cruise.
Scott, you ever been on a cruise? You been on
That was
this
a
cruise?
Scott cruise, is what that was.
You never rode a cruise until you've been on this cruise. But yeah, no, I wouldn't go.
Yeah, well, I mean, I keep getting the messages from the angels for the past few years and going forward. We got to be really careful with nostalgia, and so this is a risk here that we're getting caught in nostalgia. That we're trying to go back to what was quote better days, but was it really better? I mean, let's go into some of these conspiracies here because it was really interesting when I was looking at what are some of the biggest conspiracies out there about Titanic 1, the original sinking of this ship that went down in 1912, and it sank, to the bottom of the ocean because of an unsuspected iceberg. Most of you know this; you've seen the movie, I'm sure. But there's a lot of conspiracy theories around it, and so let's just talk about what are some of the big ones. And I'd also love to hear from you in the comments if I don't mention one of the conspiracy theories you've heard of, like please let me know in the comments. Let us all know. And also, what do you think? Do you think any of these are true? So just briefly go through them, and then we'll talk about it at the round table here because it's just interesting. But the first one that I've seen a lot is this insurance scam theory that there was an almost twin ship built called the Olympic. And at some point after the Olympic was damaged, while it was at sea, they tried to swap it and collect the insurance money on the Olympic. There's also a mummy's curse theory that there was a mummy on board and that mummy was already causing all kinds of havoc in England at the museum, and then it got put on the ship and caused this. There's the JP Morgan part of it, which he's kind of part of almost all of these theories, but that there was the idea that he was against the bankers that were involved, and at the last minute he canceled his ticket, or that he was part of the insurance scam, that he raised his insurance right before. There was some talk of a German submarine attack. There was talk of fire in a coal bunker, and then also just the human error that they steered the ship the wrong way. They saw the iceberg, but then they weren't able to control the ship. So there's a lot of these things out here, and I just really want to hear from all of you. What are you picking up on? I wanted to first go to Scott, actually. If you're picking up on the captain of Titanic who went down with the ship. I'm putting you on the spot here. What are you getting?
I really, I always kind of resonated with the insurance scam fraud thing. That's kind of where I try to look at other different I keep going to that one as a resonation. So that's what would be my pick as far as the cause.
Okay.
And if I would, let me see if I can really tap into the captain of that ship. Yeah, it's almost like I'm seeing a lot of the issues was with kind of the navigation, almost like, so I don't know if back then they had kind of, any type of, technology in a sense, but I'm just being shown, it's showing something being here, but it really was here and just navigating into it. So something interfered with his navigation to cause it to happen. So it feels coaxed to me. It doesn't feel accidental. I almost like he's saying, I would never make such a mistake. So I feel like there's that type of energy of it wouldn't have been a mistake, but he was the top of his field. So I heard the word intercepted, right? And so maybe again, if it was technology, someone interfered with the technology to show, oh, the iceberg is here. Meanwhile, it's here, and so it threw the navigation off. He couldn't stop it. So I just heard an interference was a cause of that, and because likely the insurance fraud scam thing and that whole thing. And you said whether JP Morgan Chase was involved in that. I felt a yes on that too. So that would be my read on that.
And did he purposely choose to go down with the ship? I mean, I've seen both sides of it. That was a tradition back then.
It's the loyalty factor for him. Yeah. Yes. Like if they go down, I go down with, right? Because it's also responsibility, but also the fact of, even the aftermath of such, and then having to deal with that. So it's almost like, yes, I'm going down with them in that sense. Yeah. But yeah, I heard massive interference on the navigation.
Wow, fascinating. Christopher,
Yeah.
you were able to pull up a chart with the Titanic, weren't you?
Yeah, the Titanic's launch makes it an 8-degree Gemini. It was actually launched on May 31st, 1911, in Belfast, Northern Ireland. It's the only thing interesting about this is, and of course, we don't know what time. We don't have the exact birth time of it. But what's interesting is it has it's a Gemini and has Pluto in Gemini, and so a lot of times Pluto in Gemini does mean that there will be some sort of legend, or there could be a legend, or truth can get out of hand. So there's there's karma around information. I personally, looking at, JP Morgan's a real SOB. I psychically feel I've always felt him. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's my damn credit card statement every month. It's something, but like, he's a 27-degree Aries. So these rumors, when they say he had something to do with it, and there's also a World Bank thing, right? Wasn't there allegedly the people who were opposed to the new World Bank were on that ship, and JP Morgan was supposed to be on it, but didn't get on it?
I've heard that one too. Mm-hmm.
I psychically get a strong yes that there's truth in that. That's what it does feel that way. And I feel like that particular group of people, the world bankers, will go to any extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of that. So it definitely feels like big money foul play for sure. Is what it feels like psychically. But looking at JP Morgan's chart, yeah, he's totally capable. He's got Saturn in Scorpio. This guy could easily, he probably has a past life of being a war general. So I think he had no problem being responsible for the death of 2,500 people.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
Chris Reck, what do you think?
Yeah.
Silence.
Well, a lot of, I thought I was waiting for someone to call my name, right? But, a lot of thank you and a lot of secrets here with the moon and the high priestess. So a lot of secrets, a lot of things behind the scenes. I think it's pretty clear to me that this had to do with competition. I think that, and I think that there was something about the banks and competition, and how these people that sunk, they were kind of like going to vote against, would have prevented the banks from becoming a monopoly or whatever, and which has now like happened, the central bank. And so I think that this does have to do with competition. I have my own opinions about this, but this is what the cards are saying, and Page of Pentacles as well, so money. And I think this has a lot to do with like competition of money, and that's what I get.
Yep.
Yeah, the angels were definitely talking about a lot of things being done in haste. There were certain areas where they were really extravagant with their expenditures, and there were areas where they cut costs. And
like
just
lifeboats.
Well, actually, I did look into that theory a little bit, and supposedly they had more lifeboats than was actually required at the time. Now, who knows where that report is coming from, because I didn't go further than that. But if you want to, just for fun, go look up, Titanic conspiracy theories debunked and hear their stuff. And I'm sorry, my intuition wasn't buying a lot of the debunking of these conspiracy theories. There's
Who's
just
paid to debunk?
things, right? And it's really, it goes back to the whole, like, follow the money. Like, who was making the money off of this? Who were the people suffering? And it was really unfortunate. And the angels do also comment on these conspiracy theories too, because this is another opportunity to check with their intuition. I know I'm saying that a lot, but a lot of times we will come up with these things as a coping mechanism. So you do want to watch out too for there being a need to create something there where there really isn't. It could have just been a series of human errors. And so they were also validating what you said, Scott, about there was some kind of interference with seeing that iceberg. In fact, they're asking you to take a deeper look at how the Olympic got damaged in the first place. That it was a very competitive market back then, and there was a race to get those ships on the water. So yeah, everybody here who's feeling this, I'm seeing everybody in the comments is just like on fire here. It's awesome. But I mean, this is a really fun thing to explore from this perspective. It was such a sad thing, but again, sometimes we want to get caught up in nostalgia and just excuse things, and other times it's like, you know what, let's be honest here, something was off for sure.
Coming up, Scott sings "My Heart Will Go On."
I'll stand on the bow.
And the winner of our Titanic 2 tickets after this.
Yeah, the link's below.
That's right. Tanya Rose, you're the winner. You're going on the Titanic 2. All right, cool. Well, we actually, coming up after this break, we're actually going to take a look at the conscious and psychic weather for this upcoming week. We're going to tag team the upcoming weather. Keep streaming right after this. And we're back. It never gets old. All right. Well, okay, this is our first segment. This is, by the way, this is from the suggestions of our audience. So we do ask that you please keep suggesting what you want to see, because we basically just want to have a conversation with the community once a week at the start of the week. Team, why don't we just talk about what we just went through last week? The full moon in Scorpio was really intense. I had a lot of cat meows from a lot of directions last week. I almost felt like it was like sort of ripping the Band-Aid off or cutting the nail too close to the cuticle. It was one of those sort of moments. But I feel like a new man. So what's your relay of last week? What was it like for you? And this is after our show, by the way.
Yeah. I'll go. Being the
go ahead.
Last week, I think a lot of people were feeling like almost like on a verge of a breakthrough. So I think when you're on a verge of a breakthrough, there tends to be that really tense moment, that heaviness. So I think that there's going to be in the next like week or so, 2 weeks, there's going to be a lot of those breakthroughs. Almost like everything is coming together. All the fragmented pieces start coming together as one piece. P-E-I-C-E and P-E-A-C-E. I hope I spelled it correctly. So you'll start having that piece because you'll start realizing, I understand why I was kind of, hi, Christopher. There back. I understand why.
Probably changing.
Right. We understand why now there's been that fragmentation, that buildup. And so I think if we pay attention to all the signs we had around us the past week or even a month, right? I think a lot of us were forced to stand up and utilize our voices, or some of us been told to take a step back. And so that was a message I was saying on my live, is that some need to be aware when they need to stand up, and some need to be aware when they need to take a step back, because finding that balance will give you more of that leeway of pushing yourself into manifesting what you've been trying to manifest this whole time, but also understanding where your soul resonates and moving forward and how it's growing and evolving. So this next week or two, I feel like a lot of those pieces are going to be coming together for a lot of people. And especially a lot more movement in that sense. I think May is going to be a wonderful month of movement with people with their careers, as well as, relationships, kind of growing and evolving, new relationships. So I think it's a great month of great Christopher and Chris sideshow there on my read. Love it.
We're going to make fun of Adam.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, a lot of movement sounds kind of diuretic.
Yeah, so take your X-Laxes, right? Peptos, ibuprofen, or what's it called? Imodium. I think that's another one.
Right.
Take all
We're
that.
getting rid of a lot of shift.
Dramamine,
Releasing a lot of shift.
But I think that's also like the Titanic too. If you think about the essence of Titanic, like things sinking, like we're kind of going through that modality too of sinking the older paradigm, right? And kind of resurrecting into a newer paradigm. So even the Titanic theme is fitting for the times right now.
Well, I'm curious what you see. So, I mean, the astrology shows that we have just shed off an old personality of ours that was based on our survival. And that, that full moon was the last little scab or last little situation with ourself that was holding ourself back. And now we're stepping into this new and improved 5D version of ourself, or the one that wants 5D. And moving into this week, the astrology shows that we're going to be, basically banking on our victory, that this is a week where you put your money where your mouth is, you bet on you go ahead and take the risk. And with Jupiter and Uranus in the high degrees of Taurus, this is the time to really, if you're better, go to Vegas. Like, this is a time to bet on yourself. There's a lot of fortune energy. So to me, this week is ahead. It's going to be about owning your self-worth. Devon?
Yeah. Well,
we're improving here.
It is very much. Well, I was just going to comment on the full moon. For me personally, I've heard people use this phrase. It's like walking on the bottom of the ocean. Like, there were times where you kind of got this like push from the current, and then it was like slow again. I myself was very, very sleepy with this full moon, and a lot of people around me were. I kept questioning, like, am I getting sick? Am I about to get sick? What's going on? So yeah, but it was the cutting away, Christopher. And, they really are saying this was setting us up for this energy coming up over the next week or two, where we're again being really reminded to look for things that are unseen. Use that intuition to try to read what's being unsaid, what's going on behind the scenes. Pick up on that, because that's going to give you a lot of boost when it comes to some of the decisions we're making about what we're leaving behind, what we're putting on the back burner. So it's going to be really important to focus your energy on being you with any new partnership. This doesn't just mean romantic partnerships, it means business partnerships, but you want the partnerships that are going to allow you to achieve your goals. So if you're looking around at Who am I putting energy into? Who in my life am I working with? You want it to be that everybody has the same goal. It doesn't have to be the same outcome, but are they all looking to improve themselves? In fact, they gave me a key word for this week, which really fits with the full moon, with it having been in Scorpio. And the key word was delegate. Delegate things to another week, to ask somebody else to help you, and also be careful not to take on more than you can handle, because this energy is also causing people to offer things to you that might actually not be in your highest interest, because they have different motives than you. That's why they were saying, like, feel the energy, feel what they're not saying. So I'll give you a quick pocket affirmation too. I am highly intuitive. Go ahead and say that affirmation if you want to. Put it in the comments, because that's going to help you remember to, check in with those motives behind. I really want to hear what Chris Reck has to say about the energy coming up.
Yeah, I think the scab was a good kind of analogy here that Christopher used. We have the tower, Titanic energy as well with the Two of Wands. I first pulled this card. I pulled two others. I'll show you, but then I wanted to clarify the tower. I was like, why is the tower coming up? And Two of Wands is about pushing. I think that that moon we had was all about being bold and like really pushing forward. There was some sort of element of needing to kind of like stand up for yourself, build something, be like a visionary as well. The King of Wands I look at as the most visionary in the tarot. And so he is very future thinking. But I think everybody has to do this right here is leave a comfort zone and, kind of like let a comfort zone die with these two cards. And that's where freedom will come in, because we have the Four of Wands. So if you want to get married, by the way, there you go. But also Four of Wands is a card of freedom in the tarot. And I think that there's so many things I could babble on about freedom in the astrology, freedom in the readings that I do. It's like there's a major focus on people living their life and being more free. But I think it's going to come from being bold, being assertive, and kind of leaving comfort zones. Let's put it that way.
And
nesting. The card went flying. It's gone.
Which card flew? Which card flew? Was it the Four of Wands?
That was the Two of Wands.
Okay. Because I was going to say, like, and nesting. I think people are going to find nesting too, like finding their own, safe haven, their own environment again, and really kind of perfecting their nesting abilities as well, and balance too is what I'm feeling. This is bringing into the picture as well.
That's the Taurus comfort zone. We Tauruses, moo. We like it. That nurturing is just pampering.
Yeah. Next week we'll have to get into like financials too, like get into the financial, trajectories next week. We should get. What do you guys think about that next week?
That's great. I think I'm interested to find out. I mean, I think we have a lot of interesting. With Jupiter and Uranus conjoined, I think we're going to have some crazy finances stuff coming up.
Yeah.
But in this next week, the astrology complete concurs. Pluto retrogrades on Thursday.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think that's going to be a little hairy, because I think Pluto has been holding Scott together. And when it pulls away, when it retrogrades,
my live show on Thursday. Get ready for a collapse, a meltdown, or something on Thursday. So that'd be interesting to see.
Right. No. Actually, what I do think is that it's been burrowing into our energies and deep inside of us. And when Pluto retrogrades, you have to take over for where Pluto was propping up. So I feel like there's going to be a low grade radioactive anxiety, I think, kind of deep in people. They're going to feel a little uneasy, probably, starting Friday on, kind of like when I'm with you guys.
Yeah, the angels are wanting us to really carefully check our budgets and look to see where we're spending money. Maybe some of the cutting we're doing is letting go of some of the services that just aren't performing. Maybe it's looking at how we can be more cost effective with some plans we have coming up for a project. So it is an energy that's causing us to make sure we're not being too indulgent in this energy, this Taurus energy.
Yeah. The market's
it's easy to.
Yeah, the market feels like it's gonna be an illusion. The market too, like in the next month or so. Yeah. It's gonna go like up, then drop, and then kind of plateau up, and then it's just gonna be very illusionary. So I think we need to be looking at the market very cautiously, and not get so hell bent on the rises, because they're showing like quick rise, quick falls, like immediate within the next few months. So we should be very aware of that.
Since you're on that, like just real quick, just psychically, do you feel that we're gonna have a market crash this year? I never asking that question over and over again. And this is for the whole year. Psychically, what are you feeling
for this year? Not necessarily though, but I think that the housing market, yes, but like overall, not really. And so I always felt like, this 2024 is like a wave, and kind of like, like even like the little icon we have on the side there's a wave that kind of goes like this and then drips, dips and so forth. So I think it's going to be illusionary of high gains when really it's not high gains. And so I think it's going to be like a wave. It'll be very consistent though. But if you're looking at from a broader perspective, you'll see that. But if you're looking at like you're a day trader in a sense, it's gonna be a lot of ups and downs, a lot of waves in that sense. But if you look at the overall balance of it, it's still kind of going a slight upward trajectory. Each low is higher than the last low and so forth. So I think we are in an incline in that sense, but I think it's more fear propaganda about everything crashing in that sense. But I do think the housing market's going to be going through a difficult time in that sense and up and down when it comes to, the buyer's market and so forth. So it's going to be odd in that sense, But I also feel like I'm a conspiracy theorist in saying that I think that, the World Economic Forum doesn't want us to own anything anymore. They want to push us into renting and not owning. So I think a lot of that's happening for that agenda. And that's my conspiracy theorist side. So.
So
well, I was getting the word
money in the market.
And put it out.
Sorry, Devon, I just wanted to punctuate it.
Oh no, they are talking about long term, plan for the long term. I was also hearing the word sacrificial lamb. So look to see what segment is. They are also talking about what Scott said with the real estate market. We're going to start to see bubbles burst, but a lot of this is going to play into the election, which I know we all know here, but it's going to be who's more in power as to where the sacrificial lamb is and who is it going to affect the most and who is it going to undercut the most. So be looking for that in the news headlines for like a little wink on what this sacrificial lamb is going to be when it comes to a market. Where are we going to see that go down? Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently I'm too young to know the waves that I saw in a comment there. I'm too young to know about the patterns, but I'm 42. I didn't realize I was too young to know patterns. Thank you for that.
He's going to show up at your door.
You're welcome.
I'll just say, Uranus and Taurus, I think you could probably make some crazy money with Uranus and Taurus going all the way up to step 27 this year, but it's balloon. It's not real. It's not based on actual earnings.
Right.
So, if you are studly enough to play the market, I think you can make a lot of money. And psychically, my psychic side says for the ones who control the markets, which we all know they're controlled, they don't want to crash before the election. They don't want the other side saying, see the economy, how bad it is. It's kind of a no brainer. So the point is like, make some money now while you can, but be careful about paying too much for a house. All right.
Exactly. So clearly I do know the patterns based on your guys' confirmations. So
he knows when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
Did Chris Reck go?
Reck, yes.
I'm just the afterthought. It's okay. I can.
No, never.
No,
right now.
No, I think my prediction is that there's going to be a collapse. Not like anything anyone's seen. I don't think it's going to be like this. Oh, there's a collapse like that. So I think there's going to be a collapse. My prediction is end of Neptune and Pisces is my prediction. End of 2025, right at the beginning of 2026. I think that's when they're going to admit it. So there you go.
We're talking about this year. So Christopher,
I resonate with that. What I'm looking at is Uranus and Gemini. To me, Uranus and Gemini,
same exact time. They change. They change at the same time, which is weird to me. And that's why I've always thought this.
Last time that happened, Civil War,
right?
All right. On that happy note,
but everybody seems to think that that's going to happen in 2024. I said I don't see that in 2024 because I was reading 2024. A lot of people say it's happening this year. I'm like, no, it's not this year.
He took your 2024. He raised it to 2025.
And I'll see you in 2026.
Really, the end of 2025.
But I can definitely concur with that part. But 2024, no, I don't see it happening in 2024 at all.
Yeah, no, it feels like we're all good to go. So make some money, open up that lemonade stand, and send us $1 for your gratitude. We will wrap up the show 3 minutes, a little over, but we're doing great. We always have, of course, our psychic roulette here, folks. And for this week's psychic roulette question, it's an open question, and we invite actually people who are playing at home also to play this as well. You are psychic. We're not the only ones who are psychic here. That's part of our agenda, is to help you realize that. The question goes with good old Gemini Donald Trump. Donald Trump is said to be announcing his vice presidential candidate in the next week to 10 days. That's how we're popping this question right now. Do any of you get a feeling, if you were to choose right now, I won't hold this to you, Just read your energy. People at home as well. Which of the following would you think is most likely to be the VP candidate for Donald Trump? Is it Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, Kristi Noem, Ron DeSantis, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Vivek Ramaswamy, or Dr. Ben Carlson? Psychic round the table. Who do you bet on? Ding. We need like some video game music, like some game show music. Dun, dun.
Here,
What was the second name?
I'll go. I think it's number 2. I think it's gonna be Ron DeSantis, and
Yep.
everybody else's cards suck right here. So no one's.
Oh,
even
really?
close.
So Ron DeSantis cards. There was a rumor that he met with Ron DeSantis at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend. Wonk, wonk, wonk.
What sign is Ron?
I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. You caught me
Somebody
red-handed
Google
here.
in the comments.
Maybe someone tell us what is his.
Yeah, what sign is Ron
It's
DeSantis?
dry. It's got to be like Virgo rising. He's kind of got like he's very grounded.
I agree. I always felt like DeSantis was always kind of working behind the scenes with Trump anyways. I always felt DeSantis was kind of like, backed out and is working with Trump. I think we talked about a month ago where I said, I think DeSantis is going to be working for Trump. So I also got the DeSantis vibes as well.
DeSantis vibes. Wow, that's very interesting. That's quite a twist. What about the Angels? Who are they going to select?
I was going to ask you what the order is. Did you say his name second? Because I heard second name is what I heard. So
Kristi Noem, the governor that kills animals, is number 2.
Okay.
No,
okay. Yeah, I was getting energy.
Stop it, Christopher. Number 2 is DeSantis. He's screwing with you.
No. It was
It
Kristi Noem,
wasn't.
but it might have been the one you heard.
It
I don't think
wasn't.
It was
Yeah.
Kristi.
Yeah, Kristi. That's the energy I was picking up on there. To bring in that female energy, to bring in a softer energy, although I'm not getting a totally soft energy there. So yeah, I was gonna go with that one. I heard second name, so I'm gonna.
But see, because I was reading a list in the private chat from the producers, so the second name.
That's what I was reading.
Is DeSantis.
Yeah. Our executive producer confused us here.
We love you
blame
anyway.
somebody
We love our
else.
producers.
Interesting. Well, I just looked up Ron DeSantis. He is a Virgo. Called it. Did not look it up. That was
Bada bing,
amazing.
boom.
You can totally feel it. I don't know. Psychically, it's hard to separate from what I would prefer versus what I think will happen. But I've always had a strong sense of DeSantis having another game up his sleeve. But then I also see Vivek really kissing ass. But that's logical. So if I had to go complete psychic, I say DeSantis also. It feels that way. That's the one that my heart goes.
They have staged them to be like angry with each other. So I can see where that energy could work down the road, where it's like DeSantis opposes him, but then now they're going to agree to get along, and that appeases some of the people who are really anti-Trump. So it'll be fun to watch. When did they make the announcement?
Well, I'm not sure. It's being rumored, and I'm actually back on the internet because someone's saying that DeSantis is an Aries now. So I'm like, what? No, born September 14th, 1978, according to Google. Yeah. That is a Virgo. I mean, just watch him give a speech. It's like there's a little bit TMI, too much information. But we'll see. We'll see if hope at home, folks, also if we got that right. Well, this was fun, guys.
Yeah.
Say,
Thank you guys.
Yeah, we're real grateful. And, we're going to be here on Mondays. I think we have one Monday we may not be here. We're not sure yet. We'll cyclically figure that out. Which is it?
It's the Monday that we'll be coming home from Unite the Light.
Right. We're all going to be at Unite the Light, by the way, folks. So if you want to meet us in person and, get an autograph or something goofy like that, it's on May 18th and 19th at the Renaissance Austin. Go to unitethelight.love and you can meet us there. We do want to share the love. We also love to hear in the comments what you'd like us to psychically look at and what you would like to see from the show. We totally did the energy surf report for you because we thought that was a great idea. So keep it up. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. While you're out there observing a shift show, we'll be here leading out loud. We hope you do too. See you next week. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
There are so many people that are disconnected from their internal guidance. My mission is to change that.
I don't just talk stuff and repeat stuff. I'm living this stuff.